I want you to close your eyes for just a second.
Yeah.
Seriously, just for a moment.
Mm-hmm.
I want you to visualize this. It's pitch black.
Mm-hmm.
It is absolutely night. The air is thick. It's heavy. You can smell the salt water and, frankly, the sweat of panic.
Right.
You are standing on the edge of a shoreline. The sand is cold and damp beneath your sandals.
Okay.
In front of you, there's this massive churning body of black water, the Red Sea. And it is completely impassable. No boats, no bridge.
Nothing.
You dip your toe in, and it's just deep, cold, deadly.
And behind you.
Behind you. The ground is shaking. You can hear this this rhythmic rumble of iron wheels grinding on stone.
The chariots.
There's the sound of 600 chosen chariots. The elite armored division of the greatest military superpower on Earth, Egypt. They're coming for you. And they've got swords, they've got spears, and they are angry. You are completely trapped.
There's nowhere to go.
A literal dead end.
It is the ultimate crisis. I mean, that's the stuff of nightmares, right? But here's the twist, and this is what we really, really need to grapple with today.
What's that?
You didn't get lost. You didn't make a wrong turn. God led you into this trap on purpose.
And that is the terrifying part, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, why would a saving God lead his people straight into a dead end?
Why construct a scenario where death just seems inevitable?
Yeah.
The answer is going to surprise you, I think. It involves an ancient bag of bones, a really stubborn donkey that needs its neck broken, and a biological concept we're going to call the gene.
The gene.
Yeah, a hidden gene that actually changes everything about how we view the universe and, you know, our own personal struggles.
Welcome to Timely Word. We aren't just looking at history today. We're trying to look at the mechanics of how we all get unstuck. Because if you just look at the news, or honestly, just look at your own life right now, there's this pervasive feeling of aimlessness, isn't there?
Oh, absolutely. You read the headlines about the economy, you know, tech layoffs are everywhere, geopolitical instability. It feels like we're just drifting.
It really does. It's everywhere. That feeling of wandering.
Yeah, economic uncertainty, feeling stuck in a career that's just not going anywhere, or relationship dead ends where you just have the same fight over and over.
It really feels like we're just wandering around in the wilderness without a map.
And the world looks at believers and says, see, they are wandering aimlessly.
Exactly. Just like Pharaoh said about Israel in Exodus 14. They're confused. They are trapped.
Yeah, hemmed in by the wilderness.
But what we're going to try and uncover today is that this aimless wandering it's actually a divine setup.
Right. We're going to look at the multifaceted reality of the Exodus. This is not just a historical exit. It's a biological transfer of a divine kingdom and the total, complete termination of an old master.
Okay, so let's set the scene. If you were with us last time, think of this like the previously on segment of your favorite TV show.
Okay, I like that.
We talked about the Passover. That was the huge turning point.
Right, the death of the firstborn.
It finally broke Pharaoh's resistance. So we are standing at the edge of Egypt. Our bags are packed. We are ready to leave.
But leaving isn't as simple as just walking out the door.
No.
You don't just quit slavery. You have to be evicted.
Right. And that brings us to our first major point here, the eviction notice. Because if you look at the text in Exodus 12 and 13, the whole vibe, the whole tone, it changes completely.
It's a 180.
It goes from Pharaoh saying, no, 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 you can't go, to suddenly get out now.
The language is fascinating. The scriptures say the Egyptians were urgent upon the people. The Hebrew word there implies force.
Like a pushing force.
Yeah, they eventually drove them out. They were shouting, if you stay here, we are all dead men.
Wow.
And this is such a key insight into how God operates. God subdues the environment, whether that's a worldly system, a bad habit, a hostile job. He subdues it to the point where the enemy actually drives you out.
So it's not just you summoning the willpower to leave.
Rarely. I mean, usually we're too comfortable, right? Even in our slavery.
That's a good point.
We complain about the job, but we stay for the paycheck. We complain about the toxic relationship, but we're afraid of being alone, so we stay for the comfort. We're settled.
We have a routine.
Even if the routine is making bricks without straw, it's our routine.
We prefer the devil we know.
Exactly. So God has to allow the environment to become hostile. He turns the heart of the Egyptians against us so that we're pushed out.
He makes it so uncomfortable that staying is it's not an option anymore.
Not enough.
I think a lot of people listening can probably relate to that. You get fired from a job, or a landlord refuses to renew your lease, or a friend group suddenly turns cold and just pushes you away. And it feels like rejection. I mean, it feels like failure.
It does. but it's actually deliverance. And that's the perspective shift we need to have.
Right.
If they hadn't pushed you, you never would have left. You would have settled for being a slave with a slightly better benefits package.
Huh. That's so true.
God subdues the environment to ensure your exit. He weaponizes the world's hostility to get you moving toward his promise.
That is a tough pill to swallow, though. I mean, it hurts when it's happening.
Oh, it hurts, but it is effective. And because they were pushed out so fast, we get this very, very specific detail about the bread.
The bread.
They didn't have time to leaven it.
The unleavened bread. Okay, so usually when we think of leaven in the Bible, it's a symbol for sin or corruption, right?
That's the standard interpretation, and it's absolutely true. Leaven puffs up, it corrupts, it sours the dough. But look at the mechanism here.
Great.
Why was there no leaven? Was it because they all had a sudden moral epiphany? Let's all be pure now.
No, the text says it's because they were in a rush. It says they were thrust out of Egypt and could not tarry.
Exactly. They were driven out so fast they couldn't wait for the dough to rise. And the takeaway here is profound, which is when God moves to separate you from the world, he often removes the time or the opportunity for you to sin.
Right. Ooh, I like that. The environment becomes so pressing, so urgent, that the leaven just gets left behind.
Think about it. When you are in a true crisis, when you are running for your life spiritually, do you have time for petty resentments?
No.
Do you have time for vanity, for your usual vices? No. You are in survival mode. The urgency of the situation purges the leaven.
You're forced to be pure just because there's no time to be anything else.
Precisely.
That puts a whole different spin on being busy or being in a high-pressure season of life.
Yeah.
We usually complain, I have no time for myself.
Right.
But maybe God is saying, I'm keeping you busy so you don't have time to ferment.
I love that. So you don't have time to ferment. The fermentation of sin requires stagnation. It requires you to sit still. Movement kills it.
Wow.
Now, there's another aspect of this exit that is, it's a bit controversial. It always raises eyebrows when people read it carefully.
What's that?
They didn't just leave. They took the silver and gold.
Right. They plundered the Egyptians.
Yes. Exodus 12 says they asked for articles of silver, gold, and clothing, and the Lord gave them favor in the sight of the Egyptians. They basically emptied the treasury on their way out the door.
Okay, I have to play devil's advocate here because I know people are thinking it. Isn't that stealing? Thou shalt not steal is coming up in the Ten Commandments pretty soon, right? But here, God is commanding them to take valuables from their neighbors, knowing full well they are never coming back to return them.
It is a valid question, and it's one that theologians have debated for centuries. But we have to look at the context of justice here. This wasn't a smash-and-grab robbery. This was back pay.
Back pay, explain that.
Just think about the math. You have 2 million people working as slave labor for over 400 years. They built the supply cities of Pithom and Ramses. They fueled the entire Egyptian economy with zero compensation.
Right.
If you calculated the minimum wage back pay for that, plus interest, Egypt owed Israel the entire GDP of the ancient world.
So this was a divine settling of accounts.
It was divine labor enforcement. God is righteous. He doesn't let labor go unpaid. But the purpose wasn't just get paid. This is where it gets really, really interesting for us today.
Okay.
Why do they need gold in a desert?
You can't eat gold.
You can't eat it, you can't drink it, and you can't buy a latte with it in the wilderness. There are no shops.
It's basically useless for survival.
It's heavy, useless metal for survival out there, so why load them down with it?
Because God had a plan for it later.
Exactly. Later on, in the wilderness, they're going to receive the blueprint for the tabernacle God's dwelling place on earth. And that tabernacle requires gold and silver and bronze and fine linens. Where do you think those materials come from?
From Egypt. They're carrying the building materials for God's house on their backs.
They plundered the world to build God's testimony. And this is a massive paradigm shift for how we should view our careers and our education. We go into the world, we go to universities, we climb corporate ladders, we learn to code, we earn money. Not because we love the world, we don't love the Egyptian system.
But to plunder it.
Yes, we plunder the education, the skills, the managerial techniques, the resources, and we transfer them into the kingdom to build God's testimony.
So we don't retreat from the world and live in a cave.
No, we extract from it. We are God's agents inside the system.
That's a powerful shift in perspective. You're not just going to work to pay the bills, you're on a raid.
It's a raid. You are taking resources that were under Pharaoh's control, under the world's control, and you are repurposing them for God's building. You're taking the gold of your education and using it to serve the church and the gospel.
Okay, so we've got the goal, we have the unleavened bread, and we are marching out of Egypt. But then we hit Exodus 13, and things get, well, they get a little weird.
Yeah, little.
We start talking about livestock laws and anatomy.
We enter the realm of sanctification, and this is where we have to slow down because the symbolism here is incredibly dense, but it's so important.
It starts with God saying, "Sanctify to me all the firstborn." Okay, that seems fair enough. The firstborn were saved by the blood of the Passover lamb, so they belong to God.
Right. The principle is ownership. What is redeemed, what is bought back, must be sanctified, set apart.
You can't just be saved and then go live your old life.
No, you're owned now. You were bought with a price.
But then we get to the donkey, Exodus 13:13. Every first offspring of a donkey you shall redeem with a lamb, and if you do not redeem it, you shall break its neck.
It's a jarring verse. It's violent.
It's really aggressive. Break its neck. Why does the donkey get such harsh treatment compared to, say, a cow or a sheep?
To understand this, we have to understand the nature of the donkey in biblical typology. A donkey is an unclean animal.
Go.
It cannot be offered as a sacrifice to God. You can't put a donkey on the altar. It's useful for work. It's strong. But it's also famously stubborn, and it's ritually unclean.
Okay. I have a feeling I know where this is going.
Here's the hard truth of it.
Yeah.
In our natural state, we are the donkeys.
Hey, now speak for yourself.
It's true. I mean, look at us. We are so stubborn. We are naturally unclean. We cannot simply offer our natural work or our natural good deeds to God. We think, oh, I'll just work really hard for God with my natural talent. But God says, I can't accept that. It's a donkey.
So the donkey is in a predicament.
A fatal predicament. Because it's unclean, it has only two options. Option A lamb. A clean, innocent substitute dies in its place.
The lamb is traded for the donkey.
The lamb dies so the donkey can live and work for God.
And option B.
The donkey dies, its neck is broken, it is terminated.
This sounds a lot like the Passover again.
It's similar, but this is specifically about sanctification, about living for God, not just being saved from judgment. See, many people accept Christ as the Passover lamb to save them from hell.
Right, they get the blood on the door, Frank.
They're saved from judgment, but they don't realize they need him as a substitute for their daily living.
Unpack that a little more. What does that look like practically?
It means if you try to serve God with your donkey nature, your natural energy, your natural cleverness, your stubborn will, you're essentially offering an unclean animal. It's rejected. The only way you can live a life that is actually pleasing to God is if the lamb replaces the donkey in operation.
So I don't live, but Christ lives in me.
Precisely. That's Galatians 2:20. It is no longer I who live, but Christ lives in me. If you don't allow the lamb to live through you, then spiritually speaking, your neck is broken.
Wow.
You're dead in the water. You are useless to the kingdom of God. You might be physically alive and going to church, but spiritually, you are a dead donkey.
That is a vivid image. So we need a substitute not just to get into heaven, but to get through a Tuesday. We need the lamb to handle the emails, the stress, the relationships.
Correct. Without the lamb living in us, we are just stubborn animals making a lot of noise.
Okay, so moving on from livestock, we have another very strange inventory item.
Yeah.
Exodus 13:19 says, Moses took the bones of Joseph with him.
Yeah, imagine that procession. 2 million people, cattle, gold, silver, and a coffin.
Why carry a bag of 400-year-old bones? I mean, Joseph died centuries ago. Why not just leave him in Egypt? He had a nice tomb.
Because Joseph made them swear an oath. Way back in Genesis 50, he said, God will surely visit you, and you shall carry up my bones from here.
So it was about keeping a promise.
It's about that, but it's much deeper. Bones, in Scripture, represent the indestructible life, the part of you that survives death.
Like the dry bones in Ezekiel 37.
Exactly like that. Flesh and blood rot, they decay, but bones remain. Carrying Joseph's bones out of Egypt was a declaration of faith and resurrection. It was them saying, we aren't just leaving a geographical location, we are moving in the power of resurrection.
Because you can't leave Egypt in your own strength.
No, you absolutely can't. The gravity of the world is too strong. You need a power that has conquered death. Carrying those bones was a constant visible sign that they were marching as an army of resurrection. They were carrying the testimony that death is not the end.
So they have the bones, they have the gold, and they are heading out. Now, you would think God would take them on the most direct route to the Promised Land.
All right.
If you punch Egypt to Canaan into Google Maps, it gives you a coastal route right along the Mediterranean.
It was called the Way of the Philistines. It was a major coastal trade route. Well-paved, direct. It was the highway.
But God says, no, Exodus 13:17. God did not lead them by the way of the land of the Philistines, although that was near.
Although that was near. How often do we feel that exact frustration in our
All
life?
the time.
The answer is right there. The promotion is right there. The solution to the problem is obvious, and God steers us away from it. He takes us the long way.
Why? I mean, is he just trying to be difficult to test our patience?
The text tells us specifically, lest perhaps the people change their minds when they see war and return to Egypt.
They weren't ready for a fight.
They were slaves, not soldiers. They had spent 400 years making mud bricks, not swinging swords. And the Philistines were aggressive, powerful warriors. They controlled that coastal road.
So if Israel had walked straight into a war within days of leaving Egypt,
They would have collapsed, absolutely crumbled. They would have run straight back to Pharaoh because slavery feels safer than war.
the unknown is terrifying. The known misery of Egypt feels safer than the unknown danger of the Philistines.
Exactly. So the detour was actually protection.
It was mercy.
It was total mercy. God chose the roundabout way, the way of the wilderness, because he knew what they could handle. It's a route of training, not of speed. He needed to toughen them up.
I feel like that speaks so directly to the aimless wandering we talked about in the intro. You feel like you're going in circles.
Yep.
You feel like you're taking the long way around in your career or your life. You see your friends getting promoted faster, getting married sooner, buying houses earlier, and you're in the wilderness.
But maybe God is avoiding a war that you aren't ready to fight yet.
Mm.
Maybe if you got that promotion today, the pressure would crush you because your character isn't built for it yet. Maybe that relationship would destroy you.
So the delay isn't denial, it's preparation.
It's absolutely preparation.
Yeah.
If you got what you wanted right now, it might destroy you. The roundabout way builds the capacity to sustain the blessing when it finally comes.
So God leads them down this roundabout way. And this leads us to our next major section, the crisis at the sea. And honestly, looking at the map, or at least the geographical descriptions, this looks like a terrible tactical blunder.
It looks like suicide. God tells them to turn back and camp before Pi-Hahiroth, between Migdol and the sea.
Pi-Hahiroth. Let's talk about that name for a second. What does it mean?
The etymology is really interesting. It most likely means mouth of the gorges or mouth of the canal.
Is it like a canyon opening?
Exactly. Topographically, it's a cul-de-sac. Imagine high mountain ranges or impassable, rough terrain on one side, the sea on the other, and the wilderness, they just came from behind them. It is a box.
It's a trap.
It is a trap, and God baited it.
But who is the bait in this trap?
Israel is the bait. God puts his own people in a dead end, specifically to lure Pharaoh out for one last confrontation. Exodus 14:3 says it clearly. For Pharaoh will say of the children of Israel, they are wandering aimlessly in the land. The wilderness has hemmed them in.
Pharaoh thinks they're idiots.
He thinks they're lost. He thinks their God has abandoned them, or that Moses has completely lost his mind. And this triggers Pharaoh's greed. It triggers this sunk cost fallacy.
What do you mean?
He thinks, okay, I lost my workforce, but now they're vulnerable. I can get my investment back.
So it says God hardened Pharaoh's heart one last time.
This is the last struggle. And there is a huge spiritual principle here. The enemy, Satan, often attacks most fiercely right before his total termination.
Right before the end.
Yes. When you feel the most cornered, when it feels like the walls are truly closing in, that is often the moment right before the sea parts.
But the people, they don't see the strategy. They just see the dust cloud from the chariots. They hear the rumble.
And they completely panic. And this is the psychology of the attack. Exodus 14:11, it's one of the most sarcastic, bitter verses in the whole Bible.
What do they say?
They say to Moses, "Is it because there were no graves in Egypt that you have taken us away to die in the wilderness?"
Ouch. That is so bitter. We could have died comfortably back home in our graves.
They preferred slavery to the risk of faith. It would have been better for us to serve the Egyptians.
That's the voice of the natural man, isn't it?
Absolutely. When the pressure hits, we want to go back to what we know, even if what we know is slavery. We want to go back to the addiction. We want to go back to the dysfunction, because at least we know how it works.
So Moses stands up. He gives that famous speech, "Do not be afraid. Stand still and see the salvation of the Lord." But then something just incredible happens with the logistics of the camp.
The angel in the pillar.
Verse 19, and the angel of God, who went before the camp of Israel, moved and went behind them.
We need to pause on this. Who is this angel?
It says angel of God, but usually in this context in the Old Testament.
This is not a cherub or a seraph. This isn't a regular angel. This is the angel of Jehovah. Theologically, throughout the Old Testament, this figure is widely understood to be the pre-incarnate Christ,
The Son of God himself.
the second person of the Trinity, the sent one. He was leading them from the front, but when the enemy attacked from the rear, he moved to the back.
He became the rear guard.
And the pillar of cloud moved with him. It stood between the camp of Egypt and the camp of Israel. And look at the effect. Verse 20 says it was a cloud and darkness to the Egyptians, but it gave light by night to Israel.
It's the same pillar.
The same pillar, the same God.
Right.
But to one group, he is dazzling, guiding light. To the opposing group, he is impenetrable, confusing darkness.
That is heavy. The same Christ protects the believer and confuses the opposer.
It's a divine firewall. The text says the enemy could not come near them all night. So if you're listening and you feel attacked right now, you need to realize the light has moved behind you. You might be staring at the sea, wondering how to get across, but the reason the enemy hasn't crushed you yet is because there is a divine barrier of light and darkness holding them back. You're in the eye of the storm, protected by God himself.
And then the crossing. Moses lifts the rod. A strong east wind blows all night. The sea splits.
And they walk through on dry ground. But we need to define what this actually is, because usually we just think of this as a cool miracle. But the Apostle Paul in the New Testament, he defines it for us.
In 1 Corinthians.
In 1 Corinthians 10, he says they were all baptized unto Moses in the cloud and in the sea.
So this was a mass baptism.
Yes, and we need to reclaim the word baptism. It's not just a cute ceremony where you get a little water sprinkled on you. In the Greek sense, and in the spiritual sense, baptism is a termination.
Termination, that sounds so final.
Well, think about the physics of what happened. Israel went into the water. Pharaoh and his army went into the water.
Right.
Israel came out on the other side. Pharaoh did not.
He stayed in the water.
He was buried. This is the true definition of baptism. You go down into the death of Christ, and the old master, the Pharaoh, the sin, the addiction, the worldly claim on your life, it follows you in. It tries to hold on to you.
But it can't come out.
But when you rise in resurrection, the old master stays dead at the bottom of the sea.
So the Red Sea wasn't just an escape route. It was a burial ground.
It was the funeral of the Egyptian army. It was the total termination of the enemy's power over them. You see, the Passover saved them from God's judgment, but the Red Sea saved them from Pharaoh's power.
That's a crucial distinction. We are safe from judgment. That's salvation. But we also need to be free from the power that keeps trying to drag us back. That's deliverance.
Exactly. And that power is broken in the water. The link is cut. Pharaoh has no jurisdiction on the other side of the sea.
Okay, so they're out. They're on the other side. Pharaoh's gone. The horses and chariots are watching up on the shore. Miriam is dancing with her tambourine. It's a huge party.
A massive victory.
But now we have to shift gears. Because getting out of Egypt is one thing. Getting the kingdom into them is something else entirely.
And this brings us to section 4, the internal kingdom, or as we called it in the intro, the gene.
Right. And for this, we're jumping from Exodus all the way to the Gospel of Mark, because we need to understand what this kingdom actually is. We usually think of a kingdom as a territory with a castle and borders and an army.
An external thing. But when Jesus comes, he shifts the definition entirely. In Mark 4, he gives the parable of the sower. He says the kingdom of God is like a seed.
A seed, which seems, I don't know, small, unimpressive.
It's small, but it's incredibly potent. He says the sower sows the word. But the word isn't just information, it's not a pamphlet, it's not a philosophy. The Greek concept here, the logos, implies that the seed contains the very life of the sower.
So the seed is actually God himself.
God himself, packaged in a way that can enter the human heart. To really get this, we have to look at biology. What is a seed, really?
It's the start of a plant, a new life.
It's a container. It's a delivery system. If I hand you an acorn, I'm holding the entire potential of an oak tree in a compressed format. It has the hard shell, the nutrients, but most importantly, it has the coding. It has the DNA, the oak gene.
So when the gospel is preached, it's not just about improving your behavior. It's the implantation of a divine gene.
Precisely. It is the biological transfer of the life of God into the soil of the human heart. And this is why we're calling it a gene. The kingdom isn't an external organization you join. It is a life that grows inside you. It's like an invading species.
That completely changes how we view the Christian life.
Yeah.
It's not about following a rule book. It's about cultivating a crop.
It's agricultural. The gene wants to grow. It wants to produce fruit, which is just the expression of that inner nature. If you plant a carnation seed, you don't have to stand over the soil and teach it how to make a pink flower.
Right, the seed knows what to do.
The soil just has to yield. The gene does all the work. That is the secret to the Christian life. We are all trying to act like Christians, but God is just trying to grow Christ in us.
But there are obstacles, Ray. The parable talks about the birds, the rocks, the thorns.
The thorns, the anxieties of the age, and the deceitfulness of riches. They choke the gene, they stop the expression, but the life is still there. And this connects back to Exodus in a really fascinating way. Why did they plunder the Egyptians?
To get the gold and silver to build the tabernacle.
Right. And in Mark 3, right before Jesus gives this parable of the seed, he talks about plundering the strong man.
Oh, right. He says, no one can enter a strong man's house and plunder his goods unless he first binds the strong man.
So who is the strong man?
Satan.
Yes. And who are the goods?
Us.
We are the goods. We were the property in Satan's house. We were the furniture. And Jesus bound the strong man. That's what he did in the wilderness temptations and ultimately on the cross so that he could plunder us. He stole us back.
Just like Israel plundered the gold from Egypt.
Exactly. We are the plundered vessels. And now that goldus is being built into a dwelling place for God. But there is a very serious warning in Mark 3 right next to this. The unforgivable sin.
Blasphemy against the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
Yeah, that always scares people. I get asked about that all the time. Have I committed the unforgivable sin? What is that, really?
Well, in the context, the scribes were looking at the work of the Spirit. Jesus casting out demons, and they were saying, he have an unclean spirit. They attributed the work of the Spirit to Satan.
They called the light darkness.
Exactly. Now, think about the mechanics of the gene we just talked about.
Yeah.
How does the seed get into your heart? What's the delivery mechanism?
Through the Spirit.
The Spirit is the delivery system. The
Right.
Spirit is the one who applies the work of Christ to you. So if you reject the Spirit, if you
Got it.
call the Spirit Satan, you are rejecting the only mechanism God has to reach you. You are locking the door on the delivery truck.
That makes perfect sense. It's logical. It's not that God is holding a grudge against you. It's that you've cut the bridge.
If you reject the medicine can't cure you. That is why it is unforgivable. There's just no other way in.
And this all leads to a complete redefining of relationships. Later in that same chapter, Jesus' family comes and he says, who's my mother or my brothers?
Whoever does the will of God. Just like Israel had to leave their physical home in Egypt, Jesus teaches that natural relationships are superseded by spiritual ones. The gene creates a new family.
So if you have the gene and I have the gene, we're closer than blood relatives.
Because we share the same life source. We are the same species, spiritually speaking. The blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb.
So we have this incredible picture. We're evicted from the world by God's design. We're sanctified by the Lamb replacing the donkey. We cross the sea to bury the enemy, and now we have this divine gene growing in us. But there's a trap we can fall into,
A big one.
especially us, the people who are really into this stuff.
The trap of knowing about it without experiencing it.
Which brings us to section 5, the warning. And for this, we're going to a character in the book of Job named Elihu.
Elihu, the young man who speaks up in Job 32 after everyone else is done.
Job has been debating his 3 friends for chapters and chapters. They are all exhausted. And suddenly Elihu jumps in, and he is angry.
He's burning with anger. He says, I am full of words. The spirit within me compels me. He claims to have the breath of the Almighty.
He sounds very confident.
He's arrogant. And honestly, he represents a very specific danger for people who listen to podcasts like this. He represents us.
Uh-oh. Are we the bad guys in this story?
We can be. We can become Elias.
Right.
Think about it. Elihu had good theology. He corrected Job. He corrected the friends. He was technically right on a lot of his points.
So the problem.
He was just talking at them. He was showing off.
He was the original reply guy on Twitter.
Yes. He's the reply guy of the Old Testament. He has all the facts. He has the breath. He has the zeal. But he has no brokenness. He has no maturity. He's just a smart donkey making noise.
He has the information, but not the realization.
Exactly. And here is the scary part. When God finally shows up in the whirlwind a few chapters later to talk to Job, does he ever mention Elihu?
I don't think he does.
He ignores him completely. Elihu is not even worth a rebuke from God. He is just irrelevant because he had all the data, but he didn't have the weight of God's presence.
That hits home. We're doing this timely word. We're learning about the gene and the bones and the sea. But if we just store this as interesting trivia.
Then we are just Elias. We are just noisy gongs and clanging cymbals. We need to be so careful not to just accumulate data. The goal of the gene isn't to make you smarter than your friends. The goal is to grow fruit. Patience, kindness, love. Elihu had no patience. He was bursting to speak.
So don't be an Elihu. Be a Joseph.
Carry the bones, carry the resurrection life. Don't just talk about it.
So let's bring this all in for a landing. We've covered a lot of ground today, from the brick kilns of Egypt to the bottom of the Red Sea and into the soil of the human heart.
If we synthesize this whole thing, the picture is just beautiful. The Exodus breaks us out of the world's grip, often by force, by a divine eviction.
Right.
Baptism buries the enemy who pursues us. It terminates the old master in the water.
A roundabout way.
That trains us and protects us from premature war. But the ultimate goal isn't just escaping, it is the seed, the kingdom gene growing inside us.
And for the person listening right now who feels like they are at Pi-Hi-Hi-Roth, like they're at that dead end.
I want to leave you with this one thought. You feel the enemy breathing down your neck. You see the impassable water in front of you. You think God has made a terrible mistake, but perhaps the angel has already moved behind you.
The light is already acting as your rear guard.
The darkness that is confusing your enemy is the same light that will guide you through the sea. You are not wandering aimlessly. You are being positioned for a miracle that will terminate your enemy forever.
And that gene that's within you.
That gene is the same power that split the Red Sea. It is the triune God, Father, Son, and Spirit operating not just around you, but in you. Trust the biological process of grace. The seed will grow, the sea will open.
But once the sea opens and once we cross, we hit the wilderness.
And the wilderness is scorching hot.
What happens when the gene faces the heat? What happens when the water runs out and the complaining starts again?
That is a story for the next timely word.
Keep watching The Pillar.
We'll see you then.